Hey friends! Welcome to the Drug Prevention Power Hour, where we empower leaders in youth drug prevention. After creating a student-led movement hosting epic drug-free events across the nation, your host, Jake White, dedicated himself to making the prevention field more fun, impactful, and relevant for today's youth. So if you're in education, counseling, public health, prevention, or just a caring adult looking for strategies to protect your kids, we hope you subscribe and learn from every show. Coming to you from Jake White and his team at Vive 18, enjoy this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour. I'm your host, Jake White with Vive 18, and today we are hanging out with some new friends. And listen, this is going to be a special episode because it's not often we have someone from a completely different field, but doing just as incredible work. So today we are hanging out with Joel Martin and Toni Will. Now, Toni is the general manager and governor of the Kalamazoo Wings, and Joel is the head coach and director of hockey operations. So just spoiler alert, Kalamazoo Wings is a hockey team. So this is going to be a really fun episode to share with any student athletes that you know. Joel, Toni, can we start with some basic introductions and then we'll go from there?
Yeah. I'm Toni, and sometimes people get confused, but I am a female. My first and last name being male generally. But yeah, I've been with the organization for 11 years. I'm responsible for everything on the business side. So anything that's about driving revenue or our community relations efforts or even our mascot, Slappy. So I didn't know much about hockey when I started here over a decade ago, and that has changed. I definitely don't know as much as Joel, but we make a good duo. And in terms of my relationship with substances, I've been alcohol-free for 5 years, and I'm very vocal and proud of that, and especially for our next generation, which is why I do a lot of my work.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and for myself, I'm originally from Western Canada. Ended up meeting my wife here while I was playing in Kalamazoo with the Wings. This will be year 17 with the organization here. So I played for 9, and I'm on my 8th year here of coaching with the team. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to be teamed up here with Toni as well with this organization, and also live a alcohol-free life as well. And going on 4.5 years, that's something that a bond that we share in common.
Oh, that is so cool. I love to hear that. And I mean, I just got to ask right away, because I love to hear when people have a certain amount of time of being alcohol free. Why did you choose that?
Yeah, for me, it was really a health and wellness decision. Truthfully, I didn't like my relationship with alcohol. And that doesn't mean, and I like to emphasize this, someone cannot like their relationship with alcohol, and it doesn't have to be what the culture makes it. Like, you're homeless with a brown paper bag under a bridge. I didn't like it. I wasn't functioning at my highest. I was using it for coping, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I embarked on this journey to really try to figure out why I was doing what I was doing and to stop. And it was a lot of work, and I'm really proud of it. And 5 years does feel different. I mean, I'm 6 weeks away from it, and it feels really, really good. And a fun fact, I've given myself, it depends on the person, but about 800 hours back each year in my life since I quit drinking.
Whoa. Wait, hold on. What does that mean? I hear 800 hours back and I'm like, that's good.
It is.
What does it mean that you've given 800 hours back?
To me?
Like volunteering or to you or?
No, like when you think about how much like you're drinking, like if you're thinking about drinking, actively drinking, recovering from drinking or drugging. And I also like to point out alcohol is a drug, which I'm sure your audience knows, but the alcohol industry's done a really good job of separating these out. But because I stopped doing this substance, I have 800 more hours back each year to do stuff that I love. And this is one of them.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. So you're gaining back your productivity and like living life to the fullest. 800 hours back. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Joel, what about you? Why do you do it this way?
Yeah, for myself, I kind of stumbled upon it by accident doing a sober January, and getting to a point where I didn't like the kind of shape I was in, being a former professional athlete. And all of a sudden I'm 235 pounds and don't like the way I feel and look. And I'm like, I got to do something here, and then after that month hopping on a scale and being the exact same weight, you know, and then saying, I'm going to do another month, and then hopping on and, well, I'm 5 pounds lighter. And then I'm going to do another month, and then start setting weight goals. And it just snowballed. And then all these other benefits started to come along with it as well, you know, with productivity and clarity and how I felt, and got to a certain point where I just never looked back.
Dang, that's cool. And I think about the decision as like it's a domino, right? Because it started with the January, it turned into more, and it started with maybe just cutting out something in your life, but it probably led to you adding a bunch of good things into your life too. So it's just these dominoes that go together.
For sure. And like for myself at that point too, I was just an assistant coach here with the team. And then it wasn't too long after that I became the head coach and absorbed a ton more responsibility with that. And then ultimately found myself in a situation to succeed and be able to handle that responsibility, you know, along with family, wife, and two little boys that are now 12 and 10, you know, so would have been like 8 and 6 around then, you know, so a lot going on in life, and just finding I was able to manage all of that a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really encouraging. And y'all are both out in Michigan. So Kalamazoo is in Michigan.
Yeah, Southwest Michigan, right between Detroit and Chicago.
Okay. So the choice to be alcohol free, I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin and there is some Midwest pride around the product of alcohol, right? Like that is part of the culture. How does that fit in with Michigan culture or even hockey culture? How does,
Well, there's a lot of it. Like I mean, Bell's Brewery for number one is here in Kalamazoo, and it's a well-known brand of beer. And I don't know, I can't remember. At one point, there were so many breweries popping up in Kalamazoo. We were, I think, the number 2 largest city in Michigan in terms of breweries at one point, because they've kind of come and go. We're now seeing it with cannabis, actually. So yeah, and then hockey and beer. I mean, they go hand in hand. I will say though, in the recent years, we are seeing an uptick in individuals who are looking for NA options beyond just soda and water and things like that. So we are seeing a request for that when we survey our fans, and they definitely go hand in hand, but we're offering alternatives now. And it helps when you've got Joel and I, and actually our PR director and broadcaster, he too is sober. So there's 3 of us who are faces of this organization that continue to advocate for it.
That's awesome. Joel, what have you seen from maybe the player coach side of, is alcohol or drugs part of culture in the hockey performance world or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure it is. I think that we're seeing a little bit of a shift, you know, in a better direction here. You know, I talked to some of the guys that played here in the 80s, and they used to talk about smoking outside the locker room, and when they'd come in after a game, having a couple of tall boys sitting in their stall, you know, and it's come a long way from that. Even, you know, back then you'd come to camp to get into shape, you know, now if you come to training camp and you're not in shape, then, you know, you're not going to be around for very long. So guys, I think, are at a point where they're taking their craft really seriously, and there's, you know, opportunity and a lot of money to be made if you know, do it well. So I think you're starting to see athletes now that understand that and are making better decisions and treating their bodies the way that, if you want to be an elite athlete, you need to treat your body.
Yeah. All right. I want to pivot right into that. So for our audience listening to the Drug Prevention Power Hour right now, this episode is special because I've been asked to create a video for young athletes, specifically hockey players, ages 13 to 17, and to create a substance use prevention video for them that could speak to them. So Joel and Toni are really helping me out to deliver some sound bites that are going to resonate with them. So I would love to just like, let's focus on the athlete right now. And maybe Joel, this one is for you specifically. How is your job as a recruiter and a coach when you're looking at talent coming up? How does the choice to be drug and alcohol free maybe influence that decision? Or what are you looking for? And how can that decision, make a difference in your mind as somebody who's you're making those calls, right? Like, those students' future is oftentimes either being caught by your eye or you're seeing them and saying, hey, this is not the right move. I don't want that student. So can you talk to me about what you look for and why these decisions matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first thing when you get into the hockey world, you realize is just how small the hockey world is. Somebody knows somebody that knows you, kind of thing. So the first thing I'll tell people when they ask me what I'm looking for in a hockey player is I'm looking for good people, first and foremost. So that covers a lot of things, and we're talking to their coaches, we're talking to their teammates that they played with 5 years ago in junior hockey, we're talking to their college teammates. Like, if there's something there, to be concerned about, we're going to find it, and people are really good about being honest about other people and sharing information with us. So if you're not doing the right things as an athlete and you're not taking this job seriously, then we don't have a lot of time for you. That's the truth.
Yeah, that is a hard truth. And so for the students that are making great choices, they're keeping that door open, and not only for themselves and their body, but for their career.
Yeah, absolutely. That stuff, it'll follow you around for sure. And, our sport is very demanding. Like, you get to the pro level, we're playing 72 games over 7 months, and practicing every day. So if you're somebody that wants to be out partying and having a good time, well, you don't have the time to recover, and you can't be at an optimal level to compete every day and do your job.
Absolutely. And especially things like, alcohol and cannabis do impact your recovery time. They slow things down. They slow your brain function down. And dude, just watching hockey on TV, I don't understand how they see the puck ever. So if you have a slow brain, you are losing. You are losing that match. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's a fast game for sure. And yeah, I don't know how people watched hockey before high definition television. Would have been nearly impossible, that's for sure.
yeah. And Tony, as the person who understands the business side and running a hockey business, like an athlete maybe gets in trouble with the law or an outcome of substance use happens, how does that affect the organization and how you view that athlete as a business asset?
I've seen it happen over the years. And it's tough because we're a brand. We're the only professional sports team in Kalamazoo. And even regardless of that, no matter what level, pro level in whatever city, it tarnishes the brand. And so it could be an athlete or someone that's working in the front office. If you're wearing our logo, I mean, that's a big deal. And so then we have to work, speaking of my PR director, we got to work on that to ensure that stays in house. And it's not so much to protect the athlete because we want to make sure we offer them resources. So if they are struggling, we're not just saying, too bad, you're out of here. We want to help. And we really do care within our organization about that. That is something we take seriously with life coaches, and Joel can elaborate on that more. But, having people to help our athletes is really important because it is a very hard job. I think sometimes it depends on the person, but they really don't understand what it's like to play, especially at this level, because we're a developmental league. So we're affiliated with the AHL and the NHL. And so we're the third tier down, and our players are moving up and down that system. And so our affiliates are in Vancouver in Canada, all the way across the United States and up north. And so if they have to travel back and forth, this isn't like jumping in your car and driving here. So it really does. We do care, and it makes a difference. And the choices they make do matter.
Wow. And Joel, what is some of the things that Tony mentioned as far as the resources that y'all have for your players and through the association, whatever that might be? I'm not familiar, so would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so our players do have a players union. So they have a couple different resources in place for them if guys are having some issues. And then our team also has brought on a life coach, Chuck Thus from Compassionate Connection, that works with our team as well. So, if guys are struggling with something that maybe they don't want to bring to us as a staff, so you think of different things like, maybe depression or anxiety or substance abuse, those are things they may not want to bring to us. So we try to give them a resource that they can go to and feel comfortable that it's not the coaches, and get some help. So he's been a great resource for us and our guys to have, to talk to.
That's great. I love that because the role that you each play for the organization is you might have two roles, but that is how you're viewed by your athletes and by your colleagues and everybody in between. To say, oh, I'm your coach and I'm going to develop you and I'm deciding whether you have playing time. and all that stuff, right? It might not feel like, oh, I'm going to go to Joel and tell him I messed up or I need help because I need him to view me in this certain way. But then having that safe person on your team, that you've had around you, that's such a smart idea. And it's so aware of the experience of an athlete.
For sure. And don't get me wrong, we have, doors always open policy, and developing relationship with your athletes in this day and age is so important and crucial. And you hope that, if somebody's dealing with something, they'll come to you. But in reality, that's just not the case for all the reasons you said. So yeah, having something like that in place is something we're definitely proud of for our guys.
That's cool. That's cool. I would love to ask you. So I have two pointed questions. I always want to end with positivity because I feel like anyone can complain about the world, right? We have so many problems. So I'm going to ask you two questions. The first one is I'm going to ask you for a story. Do you know anyone from the hockey world who unfortunately has lost their opportunity due to substance use, or maybe just something negative has happened? And then we're going to turn that into a positive with some advice for students. But is there any stories that come to mind when you think of, hey, this is just a great illustration of why, if you're an athlete, if you're a hockey player, this is why you do not want to go down this path?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, I'd say multiple players that have had some run-ins with the law, DUI arrests, possession arrests, different things like that. And stuff like that too can really affect a person's opportunity to cross the border. There's a couple teams. Well, there's one team in Canada now in our league. There used to be two or three. But if you want to get to the highest level, there's plenty of teams in Canada. So not being able to cross the border and having to tell your team, hey, yeah, I want to play for you, but when you travel here to Canada, I'm not going to be able to go with you because I have a DUI or something on my record, right? Is something that you definitely don't want to deal with.
Yeah, that's big. And that it is a team sport too. So it's like, it sucks that we're letting ourselves down. It's worse we're letting the team down too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Whenever you're not a part of it and you're sitting there watching, you feel like you're letting your team down, your coaches down. You always want to be a part of it, and you can't have any impact on the outcome if you're not playing and not available to play.
Yeah. So let's flip this and offer some kind of tangible guidance. If a student's listening to this and they're part of that video, they're between 13 and 17 years old. They want to have a great career. They've put a lot of their investment of time, effort, maybe even money, travel, all these things into becoming a professional athlete. What advice would you give them?
Well, for me, I mean, if you want a good example, of somebody who, had to change things around, I would say Bobby Robbins wrote a book on it called Sex, Drugs, Pucks, and Souls. And he's somebody who talks about, substance abuse that he dealt with going through college, into becoming a professional athlete, into thinking his career was over, to getting clean and sober and making his way all the way to the National Hockey League as the oldest rookie to ever make it on opening night. And he played with the Boston Bruins. But, I think he sets a good example of, here's one path, and where that led, and then here's the other path and where it can lead, which is where most people play and want to go. So, yeah.
Thank you, Toni. Any advice for young athletes wanting to make it?
Yeah, I would tell you as a mom myself, mine are older than that. They're 23, 21, and almost 19. But I tell them the same thing I would tell these young kids, that what we didn't know growing up was that our brain is not fully developed till we're 25. So when you start to think about the legal drinking age, and I know at that age I felt like I was going to live forever. I'm sure we all did, but the reality is we don't. And so how can we live longer and take care of ourselves and really take care? We talk about the liver and alcohol, but really it's about our brain, taking care of our brain. This is our CPU. This is what helps us make all our decisions. And we want to take care of that. And any substance, especially alcohol, breaks that blood-brain barrier. It's a lot of B's, but it's true. And had I known that Like, and also had I known that alcohol was a drug, I may have looked at that differently in my choices when I was younger. Because I got to tell you, it's cool not to do substances. Joel and I are cool and we don't do substances. We probably would have been way cooler when we were younger and doing this stuff, but it's cool not to. Research is showing that actually as we look at the younger generations. Take care of your brain. Trust me, you're going to want it. And when you're done being an athlete, maybe you'll be a recreational athlete one day. You're going to want to use your brain to, maybe start your own business or go work for a sports team or do something totally different. And so you're going to want to be able to do those things. And so my advice would be, you're not going to live forever. I don't want to be a downer, but you can live longer if you take care of your brain.
Right. I love that. And I think too, part of the aspirations of being a pro athlete is you're going to enjoy the health, the money, the lifestyle, and you get to define what that is. So if you believe that partying with substances is part of that lifestyle and that's the only way, then you're going to maybe go down that path. But what I hope that the listeners learn from this episode is there's a completely different path to having a fulfilling, fun, amazing, exciting lifestyle. And it is prioritizing your craft, protecting your brain, and enjoying the benefits of all the money and the relationships that you get to have and traveling the world, because that's what an athlete could enjoy, all of those things. And so if you protect your brain and start living that way now, you will have practiced it so much by the time you're adult, you can be the life of the party. You can make the most friends. You can enjoy negotiating skills and protecting that money and wealth that you built for the rest of your life instead of the opposite direction, which sometimes we talk too much about. So I love the advice that y'all gave. And I think it's going to really, really help these students. I would love to, Toni, I want you to give a quick plug because you're doing some things in the space that are really helpful for people wanting to enjoy recovery. Joel, what's so cool is you kind of leapt into this world out of a curiosity or just doing a month. And there's a lot of people in our world that are trying on this sobriety thing. Toni, can you just share a little bit about, give us a teaser of what are you up to now?
What am I up to, Jake? Everything. So as Joel knows, he's like, what's she doing now? In addition to my day job in hockey. So I did a TEDx about a year ago. And if people want to check that out, I talk about not only my day job about being a minority in hockey, but also choosing to live alcohol free. And I talk about the important thing on my TEDx is I talk about how I did it. Because I think sometimes people get out there like me and like, oh, look at me, I'm sober. And then, well, how'd you do it? So that's part of that. And that's, online. And then I coach clients. I have my own separate coaching business. It's all under tonywill.com where I coach clients one-on-one. I do group coaching. Sober October's coming up. I'm sure I'll got something up my sleeve there. And then my big project I've been working on for the last year is my book is coming out in March of 2026 called Not the Norm. And I go way more in depth. I talk about stories about why I choose about alcohol and business and kind of just who I am and what the heck I'm doing. And then with my conference in March of 26 called Empower Her, which is about lifting women up and helping them become the best versions of themselves.
Woo! Gee.
Well,
all right. So
podcast. Joel's been on my podcast too. So if they want to check that out, we're going to.
Yeah. What's your podcast called?
Women in ...
All right. Perfect.
And I have men on it too. Cause so episode 9, I think, was Joel. He came on real early on with me and I said, come on, I got it. And we had a great conversation. So
that is awesome. Well, y'all, this has been so cool for me. I also have to do a quick plug because Toni, you and I will be speaking at Amplify Sober Voices, which is our good friends over at Sober Life Rocks are putting on this big conference. People from across the world are joining to learn how to amplify sober voices. So that's January 15th, I believe, right around there.
Yep.
And we'll be doing some training on speaking, building a platform, business building skills, like just kind of these passions that you kind of develop when you are living a substance-free lifestyle and you want to, become your best self. You surround yourself by people like that too. So a couple hundred of us are going to be meeting over in Orlando. It's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah. And so let me leave y'all with this. Joel, if people want to check out, and actually either one of you, because Toni, you do the PR and stuff. If people want to check out the Kalamazoo Wings, where do they check them out?
Yeah, kwings.com is our website. And then we're on all social platforms. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and TikTok.
Cool. All right. Any last pieces of things that y'all want to leave our audience before we say goodbye?
No, make smart choices, kids.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
Joel?
yeah, exactly, exactly. But
Right.
no, really appreciate you having us on, Jake, and all that you do.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course.
great work. We love it.
Well, thank y'all very much. And thank you to all of our listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this Monday episode, going to work, getting pumped up to fill the world with great enthusiasm for life, not for substances, so that they can live the most of it. So we'll see you next Monday for another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour podcast. If you love the show, make sure to leave a review and share what you've learned. And if you need help reducing substance use among youth by educating and engaging students in prevention, visit vive18.com for more information, tools, and resources.